Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and this is probably the most interesting headline I've found having anything to do with Ripple and XRP today, unless you think that the price action is more interesting, and if you do, fair enough. I'll have a separate video on that. There's a lot to say on that topic as well. But look at this from crypto media outlet U Today. 73 million XRP is sent through Ripple's unannounced Asian on-demand liquidity corridor. Well, how about that? Well, look, it's certainly true that Ripple forms partnerships, and sometimes they operate for some time with whatever the partnership arrangement is, and we're not aware of it. We're not privy to that information. And then one day, boom, it's just announced. Now, as far as exchange partners, and really even more so remittance companies, I always think, if I were one of those companies, would I want the rest of the world to know? Would I want my competitors to know that I have this competitive edge? And I tend to think probably not. So kudos to all those that are willing to announce here. So what they're talking about here is a couple alleged exchange partners of Ripple. So they would be the pools of liquidity that make these transactions possible. It's reasonable to talk about this, and I understand why there's a piece about this, but I will also share with you that I'm not convinced that the evidence cited in this particular piece makes it reasonable to believe that, yes, this is the case. But you get to be the judge on that, and I'll share with you why I think what I think. But before we go any further, if you would please ever so delicately tap that like button, I'd definitely appreciate the support. That will tell the YouTube algorithm to share this top shelf content to other individuals. So if you would please. And also go ahead and subscribe if you have not. You can have it today for the amazing price of free. How about that? Take my free content, damn it. All right, shout out to Big Shep, at Big Shep30 on the Twitters, who tagged me in this piece along with my fellow XRP YouTuber, The Bearable Bull. And let's dive in. But, I want to mention this too. I meant to say this in the very first part of the intro too. One of the exchange partners got raided. That's if purported exchange partners for on-demand liquidity. They got raided by the police a couple days ago. Kid you not. So this would all be very interesting if this is like evidence of an on-demand liquidity partner and they got raided by the police. Okay, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting video. So anyway, around 73 million XRP has been transacted through an unannounced Asian corridor that links the two biggest crypto markets, along with Ripple wiring 19 million XRP, according to data shared by XRP Monitor. Now, the transactions, that certainly is not the part that I'm disputing. They're real transactions. The XRP ledger is public. That's a real thing. But then they have this little subheading here. ODL corridor announced by Ripple, ? Which is why my inflection goes up like that. As per several recent tweets posted by XRPL Monitor, 73 million XRP have been transferred by BitBank and BitHum, major crypto exchanges in Japan and South Korea. So BitBank being in Japan and BitHum in South Korea. Now, this is where this is all stemming from. This is the catalyst for this ultimately. Earlier this year, the Bitfinex exchange published a post on its blog saying that the Ripple giant had connected these two major cryptocurrency markets with an on-demand liquidity corridor. So again, Ripple did not announce this. Those two alleged exchange partners, to be clear, did not announce it. And for some reason, Bitfinex, unrelated to this, said that's an on-demand liquidity corridor. How about that? The blog post states that BitBank and BitHum are the two platforms that are making up an Asian on-demand liquidity corridor that Ripple had never announced publicly. And again, like I stated, I think it's perfectly plausible that there could be all sorts of relationships and clients that Ripple has that we're just not privy to right now. But I think most of the major stuff, it's going to come out at some point anyway. It's just a matter of time, all right? So what are they talking about here? Well, you can see the transactions cited on the screen right there. And to me, there are reasons to suspect that there's reasons to talk about just the concept of potential exchange partners. It's fun because, look, us in the XRP community, it's fun if anytime we get something that's like a little tasty morsel, like, is there something to this in research? Which is perfectly fine. I just don't want to do hypey stuff where it's like, I claim that this is absolutely true. Oh my God, this is the smoking gun. No, it's fun to kind of dig through this stuff and think about what might be reasonable to suspect is likely or not likely. And so here's the thing, though. With on-demand liquidity, like say they're live, say they were actually alive and we just didn't know it. These are just like a couple big transactions. On-demand liquidity, the way that this is mostly going to work, look at who Ripple has publicly stated they're going after as clients, right? Because these corridors, it's what they call the low-hanging fruit, where there's going to be lower dollar transactions, right? And I understand that you're not necessarily talking about the dollar here, but you get what I'm saying, right? Lower fiat currency transactions in terms of price, right? It's smaller transactions. These are mega transactions, and I don't know why it would be necessarily reasonable to think that this is some sort of on-demand liquidity transaction here. Now, of course, it's also true, I know that exchanges have to shuffle funds back and forth, but I'm not privy to what that even looks like. If anything, I would have thought that Ripple would have been more hands-on with something like that, so I don't have a reason to believe either that it would be the exchanges for some reason shuffling back and forth amongst themselves. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I've never seen Ripple talk about that, so I don't know exactly what that looks like, other than when Ripple injects themselves into it to buy and sell. And so, in that sense, yes, they manage liquidity here. But here are the officially announced exchanges that are, and these are the on-demand liquidity partners, official pools of liquidity with Ripple. You've got Bitstamp, which is in the United States. They're also I think their actual HQ is in, I want to say London. I'm pretty sure that's right. Then you've got Bittrex in the United States. You've got Bitso in Mexico, Coins.ph in the Philippines, BTC Markets in Australia, and BitCub, I believe that's in Thailand. Pretty darn sure. Now they're not in the news very much, so I don't know to what degree, what early stages Ripple's at and working with them and building out that particular on-demand liquidity corridor, whatever the endpoints are going to be with BitCub, but that one we do know to be the case. So there are 6 officially listed there. Wouldn't surprise me if there are other ones where, maybe there's no official flows, but if signed because it's such early days, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Another reason it wouldn't surprise me, and it's not wacky to talk about these areas, was this piece from the beginning part of 2020. This is from January 25th. From Daily Hodl, Ripple says massive global expansion of XRP payments network launching in 2020. So take a look at this. Ripple says it's launching its XRP-based cross-border payments product around the world in 2020. In its latest XRP markets report, the real-time gross settlement company says it will add more corridors in the following regions throughout the year for its on-demand liquidity. And so you got to think, who are the major exchanges there? Who are the big players? Because even just if you're talking Asia Pacific here, which is listed, that's the top one listed in this Daily Hodl piece. Excuse me. Certainly, the 2 exchanges cited in the piece from you today, BitHum and BitBank, those would be some of the more major players. And so if they come on board as official on-demand liquidity partners and it's announced by Ripple, or if they announce it, it's not that would be surprising. All I'm saying is that the evidence cited in the piece from you today isn't particularly convincing. But could it be the case? Well, sure. Okay, fine. And other than that, what Bitfinex put out is that rumor. So that came on the heels of this news from Ripple. But we do know this is coming. So it's not wacky to think that there could be some major development this calendar year with the adoption of XRP and on-demand liquidity, which is always exciting for me as an XRP holder, I say anyway, because I think that it's just going to add to confidence for the long-term viability of XRP, and it's such early days. There's no company on the planet has ever done what Ripple is seeking to do. They don't even have a competitor that's trying to do what they are trying to do. There are all sorts of companies the world over that have interesting ways about how they think money should flow around the planet, but nobody is positioning a cryptocurrency as a bridge currency. So this is it. This is the only company, indeed, that is doing this. And the story gets a little bit more fun when you take this into account. Both CoinDesk and Cointelegraph reported on this. Here's the headline from CoinDesk. Police reportedly raid headquarters of BitHum, South Korea's largest exchange. Okay, and here's the same story from Cointelegraph. Seoul police reportedly investigating South Korea's largest crypto exchange, BitHum. So, funny having a couple of these headlines within a day or so of each other. Here you go, though. Seoul police have reportedly raided BitHum, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in South Korea. According to a report by local publication Seoul Shinmun, an intelligence crime unit at the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency has reportedly conducted search and seizure investigations at BitHum's office in the Gangnam district on September 2nd. So there you go, just the other day. As reported, the latest checks are purportedly connected with an ongoing police investigation involving Lee Jung-hoon, chairman of board at BitHum Korea and BitHum Holdings. The executive has reportedly been under investigation for alleged economic fraud involving the token known as BXA. The token was purportedly promoted as BitHum's native token that eventually turned out to be involved in high-scale fraud that caused investor damages of $25 million. So that's certainly massive. So I don't know. There's no way for me to know the degree to which the claims are true, and they're saying that it's reportedly a raid. Do we have does anybody tweet this out? Like, are there any videos on the Twitters? I don't know. How do you verify this? It's tough actually, because this is crypto media. Like the news, it's very specific media, right? If you were talking about some sort of major development that was hitting, the CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all that stuff, it's a little bit easier to figure out what's going on. But when you're talking about having to rely, because if you want stories like this, it's crypto media, and this is the best of what we have. So that's why a lot of times I just kind of take stuff with a grain of salt, right? But historically, I will say this: when there's purportedly been raids, it later is pretty well verified that that's typically the case. It's just fun, it'd just be interesting. Funny is not the right word, but it'd be interesting, assuming this is true, and we've got quote unquote evidence now of this exchange being officially partnered with Ripple as an on-demand liquidity provider. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm just sharing with you what's in the news and along with some of my thoughts on this. But either way, we know that this adoption is coming. Ripple has said as much. And so we haven't had as much news now that we're into September. I kind of thought there would have been more news in terms of official announcements pertaining to on-demand liquidity. Really hasn't been a lot in terms of official announcements, but it doesn't mean it's not coming in this calendar year, and they've stated as much. I mean, if they're going to make an announcement that they're going to have an announcement within a specific period of time, not that it's always going to pan out, but they must have a high level of confidence, one would think, right? Because they know if they say that something's going to happen and it doesn't, there's just going to be a flood of stories, especially because it's just fuel for the Bitcoin maxi trolls in particular. Like, why set yourself up for that? So I think anytime they say something like this, they are really confident they'll hit it, and maybe, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but nonetheless, that is where we are today. So you can tell me, and if you have any other evidence that perhaps I have not unearthed here pertaining to this alleged unannounced on-demand liquidity corridor, I would definitely love to hear from you, and see what you have to say. But I think when you see notable volume pickup with a lot of regular transactions, to me that would be much more convincing than a couple large transactions. And even then, I don't know if it's to what degree would it have to pick up? Would there be any other reason to think that those transactions would be increasing to that degree in this alleged corridor that could be unrelated? So I'd want to think through that too. So to this point, I don't know. Is it coming though? Yes, according to Ripple. And I will not be surprised if these two exchanges are ultimately involved. And I also won't be surprised in the least if, as time passes, a crazy amount of exchanges the world over will be part of on-demand liquidity, be liquidity pools, because why wouldn't they be clamoring? I think as volume increases, it'll become more desirable, and if you're an exchange, you just make money on the buying and selling of XRP. You don't even have to necessarily care a whole lot about what the price is. You're already in the business of facilitating these transactions. Why wouldn't you want more volume? So I think that there's going to be all sorts of exchanges the world over that will want a piece of this, but it's such early days that you've got to wait for the exponential increase in terms of number of transactions to exponentially increase at an even faster pace, right? But if I had to guess, it's coming. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything, because of anything that I say or write, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!